The blood red creature. Hi, I'm Charlotte, 24 years old. I live in California with my 2-year-old daughter. Uh, this happened when I was still pregnant. I walked almost every day in the square near my house, and every single day when I was walking, I felt a strange sensation, as if I was being watched. But I ignored it, thinking it was something in my head. A week before the birth, I went outside to put the garbage. I put it and looked to the side. An ugly creature was looking at me. It was like a wolf, but it couldn't be because he had gills. Was red like blood. He and I were paralyzed for a few seconds. When I blinked, he was barking and spitting at me. I ran as fast as possible without even looking. When I got to the door, because the next thing is the house has about 5 meters of grass from the house to the gate. So I looked ahead, the animal ran. I tried to lock it, but it made a dash for the door. I ran up the stairs, but it followed behind. I locked myself in the room. Full of tears, I looked through the keyhole. The animal was prowling. I walked home. I sat on the bed and fell asleep. When I woke up, I saw the police. They were searching the whole house. I opened the door, and one of them came asking what happened. When I explained, he looked surprised and said, I had to be careful because there had been some attacks of wolves. But I knew the thing wasn't a wolf.
My friend is seeing a creature near his property. I live in Montana, and my friend keeps seeing a big creature around his property, and he is determined to find out what it is. So he told me to start sharing his story, and here I am. This will be written in his perspective. I will update as this continues. First encounter, 28 June 2021. Our first encounter happened a few days after we moved in. For insight, we moved in on 25 June 2021. At this point, I am still in crutches from the crash, so I am not doing much of the lifting. So while my family were unboxing things and whatnot, I would sit on the porch and read. But today, I noticed something while I was reading. I saw something off in the distance, in the corner of my eye. There was a silhouette in the clouds, and the number of the drivers and the Jeep. I looked up and saw about 100 feet away from me at the edge of the forest was what appeared to be some kind of large 4-legged animal, and so I call my eldest son Norman, and he comes out onto the porch and asks, "What's wrong, Dad? What's up?" I pointed to the animal, and a puzzled look comes over my son's face. "Why, Dad, that's the biggest dang wolf I ever seen. Should I get the guns?" No, I said. "Let's wait and see if it tries anything." "All right," he said as he walked back inside. "Just holler if you need me." I kept my eyes on it as it crept around the tree line. It did that for a while, until its head perked up and it ran into the woods. Later that day I told my wife, but she said it was just a big gray wolf, even though I was adamant it wasn't. After that we would see it in the distance often, and at night we would see its glowing eyes, although usually much closer at night. One night we even saw it peeking through the windows. That night we scared it off with my shotgun. Another night I found out it had gotten into the chicken coop, and it took 3 of us to get here. Norman spent the rest of that day looking for it, and that was yesterday. I haven't seen it yet today, the creature. One day me and my brother were feeding the dogs, and we went to feed the last dog across the yard, about 2 acres across, and we stopped in the middle of the yard, carefully laid down on the ground. We saw something we will never forget. A huge wolf-looking creature, 4 feet tall and 2.5 feet wide, charging at us. Luckily, we were fast, but before I could get to the door, it was right behind me, so I decided to scare it. I yell in a deep voice, so I ran at it, yelling, and when I got to it, it jumped, so I had an instinct punch. It righted in the face. It was trying to bite me, so I kicked it and ran into the house. We came out with guns, shot it in the leg, and it ran back to wherever it came from, and I have never seen it since. The woman in the cellar. Disclaimer: this story contains blood and gore. Do not read if you have a weak stomach. As I was walking through the woods one day, I came upon a clearing. In the clearing, there was the remains of an old shack. I poked around the surface for a while, finding random souvenirs, and then I heard something chewing on something squishy. I looked to my left and to two metal doors leading to a basement. I opened the doors expecting to find some kind of animal, but what I found was much, much worse. A woman in tattered clothes was kneeling over a man's corpse, ripping flesh from his thigh and eating it like a wolf, scarfs down food. I looked on at horror at the scene of his eyeballs scooped out, jaw ripped off, his entrails strewn about. Said the Asian man with a red beard, reached for a scarf and screwn about. I shut the doors, barred them with 2 planks and ran away, calling the police. They searched the property and I heard screams, gunfire, and yelling. The woman had leapt onto one of the police officers and stabbed him through the neck, and jerking the blade, breaking his neck, before his partner shot the woman twice with a shotgun. He followed his partner back to his car, pulled out his plague and banged his head against the wall while crying out to the person below. Then he tried it self.